So good afternoon. I am Joan Benz, the program coordinator for Sharp Again Naturally. I want to thank you for joining us today. And before we begin, I'd like to give you an update on our programs. We have 2 foundational coaching groups open for registration. Our next session begins May 9th. And the deadline to register is April 24th. We only have a couple of seats open for that at this point. Our June session begins on June 21st and is scheduled for an early evening, 7 p.m. Eastern Time to accommodate those whose workdays end later and for those in earlier time zones. The Stay Sharp coaching program offers a unique opportunity for those looking to preserve their cognition, to take a more active role in enhancing their brain health. Working with a professional health coach and small peer group participants identify and begin to modify lifestyle factors that may be impacting their brain health. They learn from one another's experiences and acquire the tools needed to strengthen their cognition. Participants must live independently and be willing to make doable life changes. By the time the program ends, participants will have the knowledge and confidence to keep building on what they have learned to maintain a healthy, vibrant life. Our fee for our foundational program is significantly subsidized through the generosity of the Sharp Again Naturally donors. The cost of the program is nominal compared to the actual cost of $450, so an enormous value. We have one more webinar in our Winter Spring series on Friday, May 26th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Lisa Snow, a certified personal trainer and founder of On the Mend Customized Fitness and Massage, will join us for Fit Body, Fit Brain. Regular exercise promotes a strong flow of oxygen and blood to support the formation of new brain cells and can actually improve memory. She will outline how to get started, how to take up a new routine, and for those who are already active, how to take your routine up a notch or two. I will be sending out all these program details along with the recording link of today's webinar later today or by tomorrow morning. So thank you for joining us for the Better Detox Equals Better Brain. We would like to note that the information in this presentation is for educational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Our information is intended to empower individuals, their families, and healthcare professionals who want to collaborate in the most effective ways on this journey to health and well-being. Please see a licensed and qualified medical professional for your medical needs. Now I'd like to introduce and welcome our speaker, Dr. Penelope McDonnell. Dr. McDonnell graduated from the University of Pennsylvania and the Columbia School of Business and worked on Wall Street for many years. After taking time off to start a family, she decided to switch careers to be a naturopathic doctor. She attended the University of Bridgeport School of Naturopathic Medicine in Connecticut, a leading accredited university that offers a 4-year program in science-based natural medicine. Dr. McDonnell focuses on prevention as the primary strategy for maintaining health. Her treatment plans generally include a combination of natural medicines and specific lifestyle changes designed to bring balance to every system of the body. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will answer them during the Q&A. Welcome, Dr. McDonnell. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate your introduction, Joan. I'm having slight technical issues because for some reason, whenever a person is admitted in, my cursor no longer functions. So,
oh dear. Well, hopefully they've stopped.
I can bring it back, but I apologize for the back and forth. Joan is probably never going to let me handle the beginning slides again. Sorry. Sorry about the massive fail. I also wanted to give thanks to Lisa Feiner, who started this whole introduction process for me with Sharp Again Naturally. I just think so much of the organization. It serves in so many wonderful ways, so many people. And thank you all for joining me today. I am going to talk about food and how to detox or how to promote detox in your body with better food choices. And there's so much you can do, so much out there, and knowledge is really power. I'm going to start by talking about some basics, but get into some specifics that you may not know, which is probably, everybody wants to know what the latest and greatest is, but there are also some tried and truths that I think need a little bit more emphasis, and so we'll dig into that a bit. So before I really dig into the how, I want to talk about some specifics about what detox really means. Your body is an organ that does detox as one of its primary functions. So when you're exposed to a toxin, it has all of the resources to get it out of your body. There are genetics at play here. Some people have better resources than others to get toxins out of the body, and maybe that's a conversation for another time. But for now, we're going to look at the basics, which is your skin and sweating, your stool, the feces, which involves the liver, urine, which is really the kidneys, and blood. And I just want to talk a bit about this and what supports these organs. So the kidneys spend a lot of time, they have a lot of mechanisms for pulling out specific things that they consider trash for your body and putting them in the stool. And a lot of things that can happen in that process before elimination happens, reabsorption of toxins can happen, etc. So many of the targets of the food choices that I'm going to talk about is amplifying the liver's ability to not only pick out a toxin, but also place it in the stool so that it gets excreted. The same with urine and the kidneys. The kidneys can certainly get overloaded with toxins, but they're absolutely critical in allowing them through the fine lace mesh that is the kidneys to make sure that they're excreted. So supporting the kidney in doing that function is easy to do with food. We'll dive into that. Blood also includes lymph. And there are also things that you can eat that will amplify the ability of the blood to move toxins out of the body. All four of these work best when you move. That's why sitting is the new smoking. We know we need to stand, we need to move during the day is really critical. So one of the best things that you can do to detox, aside from choosing the correct food, is to move. So before I dive into specific foods, I want to explain a little bit about pH. In any lab, in a typical biology class, there's often a day where you look at some biological functions of the body in petri dishes that have different levels of acidity. So in this chart here in front of us, you'll see the acid is quite a bit to the left where it's orange, base or alkaline is over here where the number 12 is. Between 9 and 11 or 10 and 12 is where the majority of the most beneficial chemical reactions in the body happen. And you actually see it in petri dishes in a lab. And if you make the environment in those petri dishes more acidic, the reactions, detox reactions in this particular instance, happen much more slowly. So we know that eating foods that keep our bodies as much as it can in the 9 to 12 range is beneficial for mood, for inflammation, for joint pain, for energy. I could go on, and also for the excretion of toxins. So we're really going to focus for just a moment on what in your diet can keep you in that healthy range. I will say that, well, we'll get to this in the next slide. There are some very important foods that make us acidic, and we'll address how to balance that through your day's intake of food. So these are the 7 most alkaline foods. If you saw in my previous, I really love celery, lemons as well. Lemons aren't on there, but they should be. Yes, these are all green, but one, there's a reason for that. There are all sorts of constituents in the color green in food that work to help specifically both the liver and the kidney and the blood bind and excrete toxins. So fitting these into your diet daily is very beneficial. all for the reasons that I explained, just in terms of keeping your body alkaline. So you can do this through juicing. You can do these by having greens with every meal, which I recommend, or snacks. I love cucumbers, and maybe add some fruit, although cucumbers aren't there, so just celery sticks, but cucumbers are also beneficial. So this chart is, again, talking about pH and acidic and alkaline. I want to start sort of at the tail ends. So the best foods on the far right, I know that this is a very dense document, and I'm sure that you're maybe not even able to see the fine print. I do recommend, if you have your phone handy, to take a picture of this slide and just take a look at it at your leisure. I'm going to go over some of the highlighted points, but on the far left.
I'm going to include a PDF of that in my recap email tomorrow.
Great, perfect. So if you'll see on the far left, soft drinks, so any carbonated drink actually is very acidic for the body. I see all these people drinking kombucha, great for the gut, really not great for detox. You can combine more alkaline promoting foods with it to make it a bit of a softer land on your body, but carbonation in general, one of the things I do for most patients, if they come to me on any type of carbonated beverage, especially if they have any kind of inflammation issues in their body, is I try to wean them off. And there are various ways to do that. Energy drinks as well, sugar juice, fruit juices, some are okay, especially celery juice, although that's a vegetable juice, and alcohol. So those are the big ones on the left, that to be aware that they really make your body acidic, and therefore it's not able to detox during that, or detoxes very poorly. So, and it's also very inflammatory. On the other end of the spectrum, the alkaline foods are almost exclusively fruits and vegetables. So those are always, you're pretty much safe in eating any fruit or vegetable. I'm pretty sure, yeah, they're pretty much all there. There are some beans in the slightly acidic category, but that's not of huge concern. Water, by the way, is neutral. I do want to point out that coffee is the yellow, the deeper yellow one. So fine to have coffee, but make sure you really pile on the alkaline foods later. I guess really this chart is all about balance. If you're going to choose something from the left, make sure you're also choosing a robust quantity of foods from the right. Hope the majority of the food through your day, and we're going to dive into some specifics and some recipes, should be from the right side. There is one point that we need to make about acidity. Meats, chicken, beef, pork are all acidic, and that is the definition of protein. Of course, protein is very important. We need it, but it's important to understand that if you're going to have a lot of protein in your diet, then you need more green leafies, more green salads, more smoothies, and we'll dig into all of the really potent alkaline types of food that you can combine to make the protein a little bit less of an inflammatory, have a little less of an impact on your inflammatory impact on your body. So here are some of my 3 favorite foods to support detox by organ, actually. I want to go to the lower right first. That's hibiscus. If there is one plant that really benefits kidneys, it's the hibiscus. And if there's one line item I really there are many line items I pay attention to in blood work to gauge somebody's health as they're aging, but kidney health is really a good indicator of healthy aging. And I do see kidney numbers gradually declining as people age. And I often find that if they reverse their diet to more detoxifying or more alkaline, the kidney number, the glomerular filtration rate on your blood work, actually tends to improve. So this is something that you can not only reverse, but you can reverse it pretty much any age. At least that's what I've seen in my patients on blood work. And hibiscus comes in powder. You can have hibiscus tea, which we'll see in the next slide. But the kidney really loves hibiscus, and it doesn't take much. A spoonful of organic hibiscus powder available on Amazon in a smoothie a few times a week, maybe a cup of some hibiscus tea, also great. The other three green leafies here, parsley, I really can't say enough about parsley. Whoa, just a minute. I can't say enough about parsley. It is also good for the kidney, but also good for other organs of the body that detox. Please put it on all of your salads, dried or fresh. I also love parsley tea. We'll get into that in future slides. The top two are dandelion and burdock root. Burdock root is not something you normally see in the grocery store. I'm not suggesting you saute up some burdock leaves or the burdock root for your meal, but these are things that you can buy on Amazon, again in powder form. The burdock particularly. There are some dandelion greens you could sort of saute, but they're quite bitter, but good for you if you're like that sort of thing. Also, they can be in a tea as well. But these are incredibly powerful, and a little goes a long way. A teaspoon a day, hugely impactful for organ health. Here are others that I also really love. I can't say enough about beets and artichokes for liver health. This is artichoke powder on the upper left, also eating the whole artichoke, hugely beneficial. The reason fiber is good, specific types of fiber, and we'll get into that in a minute with flax, are good for you is they tend to bind to toxins and not let them go. As stool sits in the colon and makes its way through, if it's sitting in the colon for a long period of time, the body tries to absorb the moisture to make the stool lighter. And by absorbing moisture, it's absorbing toxins. But if you've got good quality fiber that's holding on to toxins tightly in your stool, the absorption of the fluid is less impactful of toxins, or rather less filled with toxins as it's reabsorbed. There's wild blueberries, again, great for detox, asparagus as well, unless the urine smell bothers you. Beetroot juice powder, as you can see, all of these available on Amazon. The dragon fruit on the far left now seems to be commonly available in places like Whole Foods and a lot of natural health food stores. Dragon fruit is just loaded with beneficial nutrients for the detoxifying organs. Cherries is really interesting. Many of you have maybe heard about dark cherry juice for joint pain. We do know from studies that joint pain is often a downstream effect of poor digestive function. And joint pain is actually the body taking out the trash in a way and storing it in joints. Wild cherries tend to be a good promoter of moving the toxicity and the inflammation that they carry with them out of joints and out of your body. I know it sounds like a grandiose sort of plan, but it really does seem to. I see patients who increase their cherries and intake, particularly the dark cherry juice, and it does seem to help them over time, which is great. Here are some others. Wheatgrass, I have mixed feelings about wheatgrass. I have so many people just really don't like the taste. I happen to like it, but I think there are others out there that are sort of easier to take. I do, however, think having a little bit of wheatgrass, if you can get, I think this one's organic, if you can get good organic wheatgrass and pop it in your smoothie. Spirulina would probably be my preference. I don't recommend buying, unless you want to grow your own wheatgrass and buy the special equipment, and wheatgrass really resonates with you. I see people go off and buy and purchase and grow, and then a year later they just said it's too exhausting. So trying to make it easy, because we all have busy lives, just wheatgrass powder from Amazon, preferably organic. Watercress, interestingly, highest mineral content of almost any green leafy. If you like watercress, use it, have it as often as you possibly can. And here's an example of hibiscus again. Hibiscus will be weaving through everything of a tea that you can make a picture of in the summer and combine it with other types of teas as well. I mix my herbs, have different herbs bags in 1 cup. So 3 to 4 cups of leafies a day. I was having a conversation a few years ago with a woman who was just talking about, she was a nutritionist. She was talking about how really she felt strongly this was critical. And I said, I can't get anybody to do this. Who's going to sit down and do this? This is a lot. They're going to feel so full. And then we had a long conversation about digestive enzymes, which we'll get to in a minute. But I actually bought a container of a big green container from Whole Foods, about this size, not the super large one, but the pretty big size one. I crammed it all into either my Vitamix or my NutriBullet, and I whipped it up because I wanted to see what the volume really was without all the air and the fluff. And it was about 1.5 inches of liquid. That's it. And I thought, there's a lot of great fiber in that liquid and a ton of great nutrients. I'm beginning to see this, and a lot of alkalinity. I'm beginning to see the wisdom in this volume of greens per day. And I tried it myself. I've now gotten to the point where I also have patients who kindly give me feedback on this. And people feel a lot better. Needless to say, their feedback in terms of their stools and just how they feel is good as well. I can't emphasize what a game changer it is. It's a lot of greens though. You have to have greens at lunch, and you have to have greens at dinner, and you have to have a good amount. Obviously, you can saute these as well, and that's fine. They don't have to be raw. There is a whole raw conversation to be had another time, but at this point, I just want to get a large volume of greens in your body in a way that's palatable, and cooking is fine. Just a sort of side view, I know we talked about sugar and other things to avoid and carbonation. I want to talk a moment about fats. I feel that a lot of people don't understand how important it is to put nuts and seeds and some oils into the refrigerator or the freezer. The minute you open a container of nuts or seeds from that Ziploc bag state, it starts getting rancid. And rancidity is probably one of the most powerful oxidants and can really affect brain health. So make sure to store your seeds and your nuts as soon as you open them in the refrigerator, and many oils as well. I'm fine with keeping olive oil out, but I wouldn't keep it out for more than a month. It seems to be slow to get rancid. But other oils, I believe avocado oil stays liquid in the refrigerator. I know olive does not, but any oils that you can store. And then once you fry foods using oils, the rancidity is quite high. That's one of the problems with frying, is that it increases the rancidity and also affects brain health. So while try to avoid, but if you can't avoid, then we are back to this. Combine it with 3 to 4 cups of leafies a day. So if you're going to go crazy and have a lovely deep fried meal with fries, have at some point during the day a large number of cups of green leafies. So I want to talk a bit about what's in our environment and what we're actually trying to excrete when we are eating these foods, and what foods are good for what the detox targets are. So the 3 are heavy metals, pesticides, and airborne chemicals. I don't know how many of you have seen the recent consumer report on dark chocolate. I strongly recommend all of you Google and read it. It's quite an eye-opener, the amount of lead and cadmium in Lindt, Tony's, I'm trying to remember the other ones. I don't want to malign anyone that's, well, I strongly urge you to pull it up, and I actually see this on blood work in patients. I have had very high lead and cadmium. I test for heavy metals in patients that are interested, or I feel they have high levels on their Quest blood work. So it's in a lot of foods. We see arsenic in chicken and in rice. I know that copper is here, and a lot of you may think of copper as an important mineral to have, and it is, but it is so plentiful in our environment and competes with zinc, which is so important for immune function, that I no longer worry about getting too much copper, but I very much worry about getting too much zinc. And we are seeing people who have too much copper who aren't supplementing and are just getting it through their diet. So that's a concern. Aluminum, aluminum foil, and all of this affects the brain. So what are some foods that help? I have a list of these 5 in the next slide if you would like to take a picture. On the bottom left, even though it looks like hibiscus, it's not. This is a seaweed called dulse. I'm a huge fan. I like the iodine in dulse. It's hard to get iodine now for many reasons I will go into later. But what I particularly like about dulse is it adores heavy metals and grabs them and loves to hold on to them. So getting back to the feces in the stool and any kind of reabsorption that's done as it works its way through the colon and the small intestine, the dulse holds on to heavy metals. The others that are here, the barley grass powder, the spirulina, and this is parsley, cilantro this time, not parsley. And cilantro, if you like the taste of cilantro, don't force yourself. If you hate cilantro, there are other good green leafies like parsley that will get the job done. But cilantro, barley grass powder, and organic spirulina are all terrific at both promoting bowel function and holding on to heavy metals. This one on the lower right is ground flax, and again, it's just a fiber that adores heavy metals and holds on to it. And here's the list of those 5, if you wanted to take a quick snap. Pesticides, I'm sure if you're at this watching this, you understand that glyphosate, which is the primary ingredient in Roundup, is basically covered the planet and most of the food that we eat. The negative of glyphosate is that it really loves, aside from the positive, of course, is that it kills all of the critters that eat the food, so you don't have as many issues with that and the weeds. But unfortunately, it really loves minerals. And so when you eat food, when you eat the glyphosate, it may kill a few unwanted bacteria or wanted bacteria in your gut. It's not a huge issue, but what it really loves to do is it really loves to bind to minerals. And what we're finding in the community is that, alarmingly, the blood work as a nation for basic minerals like magnesium is starting to go down. I actually think one of the components of the obesity epidemic is that people who are constantly eating foods laced with glyphosates are becoming demineralized and are craving more and more food because they know they need those nutrients. And it's a vicious cycle because the glyphosates keep grabbing the minerals, and then you just pee the glyphosates out. So one wonderful solution for the effect of glyphosate absorbing minerals is glycine. Glycine loves glyphosate. And this is an amino acid, so very slightly acidic, but a teaspoon won't move the meter too much. It's sweet tasting, but non-caloric. I have people put it in their tea with a meal. You can put it in a smoothie. It's also calming, but I don't find it makes you sleepy. It just makes you calm, but I don't find that in everyone. I certainly don't find it changes me, but then I have a teaspoon a day. Maybe you build tolerance, who knows? Anyway, glycine powder. This is glycine powder is sort of like vitamin C. It's really hard to make it poorly. It's a pretty straightforward product. So metabolic maintenance is a good one. Pure encapsulations is a good one. Many supplement companies whose names you probably know make glycine powder, so easy to access. So lastly, chemicals in the air. And this is, of course, from factories, smoke, engine exhausts, chemicals, pretty much anything, any off-gassing from furniture, off-gassing from rugs. So these toxic chemicals specifically need something in the body called glutathione to get them out. And these are the foods, another dense slide, and I'll go through it. These are the foods that boost glutathione. Interestingly, some of us really struggle with the genetics to create glutathione, even those of us who don't benefit from a little added boost because there is so much toxicity out there that we're breathing. So just sort of to go through this chart a bit, Brazil nuts are on the upper left. They're high in selenium, a wonderful supporter of detox for the liver and for supporting glutathione. Broccoli is the other one. Most of the goitrogens like cauliflower and broccoli, cabbage particularly, loaded with sulfur, and that helps detox. Cinnamon, turmeric, and cardamom. I am such a big believer in curcumin, which is a combination, a bit of type of subset of turmeric. The studies on curcumin for brain, for detox, for bones, for everything are enormous. So big believer in curcumin, and it certainly boosts detox. Most of the other foods we've discussed, oranges, avocados, you've seen those in previous slides. I have a love-hate relationship with dairy most of the time, because we know in humans, and it's the same for cows, that breast milk and udder milk is usually a concentration of toxins in the body. So you need to have a pretty clean cow to get clean milk. But there are some really great things in dairy. Whey is a terrific precursor to glutathione. Not my first choice in products to detox. Dairy is really hard to digest, but it would be remiss of me not to include it. So just as an aside, digestion matters. The quality of your digestive tract impacts your ability to detox. So as I had mentioned briefly before, I really like enzymes for supporting that. This is one that's easy to buy anywhere. These are chewable. Papaya, one of my favorite fruits, is the basis for this. And it never ceases to amaze me, rather, how many patients will send me emails, say, wow, enzymes really make a difference. So when you're eating, although the papaya enzymes are pretty specific for protein, there are other enzymes. Whole Foods has lots of wonderful digestive enzyme products. It never ceases to amaze me how I'll get a call from patients who say, oh, I've all the fiber and all the bloating, but the digestive enzymes, I'm so much better. I don't have bloating. Digestive enzymes are terrific. It's very hard to find a bad digestive enzyme. And then good old lactobacillus, which is a probiotic. Lots of good studies showing the effect of lactobacillus on keeping toxins out of your body and in the stool. So don't hesitate to take your daily probiotic, particularly when you're traveling. Really important. That and another species called Saccharomyces boulardii, another favorite. It is amazing to me how both of those are so protective when you travel from having toxins or critters that destroy your trip or abbreviate it. So a moment just to talk about tea, and we'll get into how to incorporate some of these detox suggestions into your life. But I always tell everyone to just start with tea. I've talked about all three of the herbs that are here. The Yogi Detox is a combination of these three herbs plus more. I think it also includes the burdock that I had mentioned before and a few others. Most detox teas I like. Again, back to Amazon. Finding organic is always preferable. I think, yeah. And I really recommend combining bags. I'll often put a parsley with a hibiscus. I'll often put a detox with parsley. I'll often rebrew. There are really interesting studies on how the first brew and the second brew actually brings out different constituents and continues to provide benefit even though you're brewing a second time. So don't hesitate to reuse bags if you're in the office, if you're working. Just walk around like me. I have lemon verbena in this today, and I think I have detox in this one. I have a lot of herbal tea during the day. Anyway, and I often combine bags, as I suggested. One caveat to all of this, though, is that if you start incorporating detox regularly into your life and you haven't before, and you're on certain medications, it is something that you should pay attention to. If for some reason your blood work or your blood pressure, for example, is not as it was before you started. So, and I'll dive into what to do if that happens, but just to step back for just a moment. So I'm sure you've heard about grapefruit and statins and avoiding them. We know that grapefruit actually works at a specific pathway in the liver that speeds the clearance of a statin. And there are other foods that can either increase the clearance of a drug, which means it's not going to be as potent, or it can actually decrease the clearance of a drug. And we see this sometimes in blood pressure medication. If people start to using some detox foods, and they start standing up and getting really dizzy because their blood pressure has plummeted. So if that happens, I would definitely take out the detox foods and see if you return to baseline first. And that's important because you want to find out why this has happened to your medication. Why has your blood work changed? Why has your cholesterol changed if it hasn't in 5 years and you're starting to detox? That sort of thing. The little blue pill on the lower left is Viagra. That can be impacted as well with detox. So remove the whole detox plan and see if you return to baseline. If you do, definitely restart the detox, but possibly at a different dose. This is something nuanced. I wouldn't recommend doing this without an integrative physician to support you. But at the end of the day, it's better to have detox and less of the medication than the reverse. But again, an area that I don't recommend fiddling around with unless you have an integrative physician in your back pocket to support you, but it can happen. So how to get started with all of this, aside from just buying some tea? There are some books that I really love for recipes. Good old medical medium, Anthony Williams. I know he's controversial, but his recipes are terrific in this book. They're easy, they taste good. I don't feel like he uses enough dressings. He's sort of anti-fat. I'm not anti-fat. I'm certainly not anti-olive oil. So I do add more olive oil to the salad dressings and some of the soups that he recommends. Just really, really terrific recipes of powerful detox foods. Dr. Mark Hyman has a 10-day detox cookbook, an oldie but goodie. It is 10 days, but I can't, even 5 days is great. And also great recipes in that. Dr. Sebi ditto. And then good old Michael Murray. So Michael Murray is a naturopath. I believe I don't think he's with us anymore, but he is legendary for his juicing combinations. What I love about this book is it separates it out by the needs. Have you had the flu? Have you had a cold? Do you have seasonal allergies? What kind of ailment do you have? And then what kind of juice does he recommend? And if you can look at the cover, it's a smorgasbord of everything that I've just talked about is detoxifying. So if you have a juicer and you're just bored with juicing one thing, or you need a little extra kick, because his recipes are delicious and fun, and I highly recommend the book. This is also a favorite of mine. I recommend this for patients daily, but particularly for mothers who've just had babies. It's just incredible for restoration. It's also great when you're pregnant, but it is loaded with, it has the recipes on the next slide, but the combination of these greens is very synergistic, and it's loaded with minerals, particularly if you buy them in organic form. For anyone who's been ill, this is a really terrific recovery soup. So what I suggest is making a super large batch and freezing it in ice cube trays, and then putting those cubes of soup into Ziploc bags and keeping them in the freezer, and just having a cup a day. So massive, massive make once a month or so. Here's the recipe. So it's zucchini, string beans, celery, and parsley. And it's basically mix, simmer, and have. Even a cup a week, but we'll talk about strategies in a moment. So how can we actually come up with a plan where you're not just sort of going to start having detoxing, not going to start detox foods in the next couple of weeks and sort of sputter out and be back to baseline in the fall? I do find that I'll have somebody walk off and get really excited and want to dive in and do the whole thing. And I'll say, wait, just start slow. So I really recommend just adding one detox item to your daily routine to start, and try it for 6 months. Don't do anything else, but just do 6 months. So the Beeler's broth would definitely be one, and that would be a cup a day. Liver rescue soup is a recipe from the Cleanse book, the Anthony Williams book that I put up earlier. It's filled with delicious veggies. It's really a fantastic recipe. Have a cup of detox tea every day, or start your day with lemon water. I recommend 2 lemons squeezed in a glass of water right when you wake up, and wait half an hour before you eat. Try to minimize fat in your breakfast. I cannot tell you the impact I've seen on blood work for liver numbers just doing this. The liver really loves that one added lemon water addition a day. Once you've sort of moved on and you want a little bit more detox, maybe 3 or 4 months, you may want to have a whole day of detox a week. And what does that look like? A meatless day is pretty much an alkaline day. So if it's just fruits and veggies and even fish is slightly alkaline, but not too bad. That would be a really great rest for your body. So that would just have fruits and veggies only in one day, or juice. I have mixed feelings about just having a fast and just having juice. I don't want you to be hungry. I want you to have as many fruits and veggies as you feel hungry for. This is not, I don't want this to be unpleasant or uncomfortable. Have a detox smoothie on your detox day. Lots of recipes of detox smoothies in the Heal to Cleanse book and in the Dr. Hyman book. Broth and soup we spoke about. And then for that one detox day, avoid gluten, dairy, and fried foods. So that's maybe something to start in September. And when I try and shift and change to something, I really sort of look at a horizon of about a year to see if I can incorporate something in. I really try in my brain to sort of stick with it and try new ways to incorporate it over the long term. If you really want to get, and I do have patients who do this and swear by it, I either have a detox week a month or a detox week every season. Again, Cleanse to Heal has good plans for that. Mark Hyman does as well. And then one that I didn't mention earlier is Dr. Schultz. He has really terrific 5-day cleanses. I love his cleanses because he gives pretty good guidelines for what to eat during those 5 days. And it's a detox plan. And he includes, you can look this up online. And he includes some tinctures that I really like that includes a lot of the dandelion and burdock and hibiscus and parsley that I mentioned. But that would be also terrific to do as well. So we're at the end. Can't wait for your questions, and thank you so much for sticking with me, and happy detox.
Thank you. This was great.
We do have a couple of questions in our chat. One of the first was, how are lemons alkaline?
Right, because they're so acidic. I understand. So the acidity of the lemon actually creates alkalinity in the body. It's sort of like apple cider vinegar, also alkalizes the body as well. So we know this because we've actually tested blood gas levels in people who have had foods that have acid. So while I don't recommend lemons for people with any kind of GERD or gastric inflammation, so if you have stomach problems or reflux issues, we can assume that you're inflamed. Adding something acidic like a lemon is not good. But if you have a robust digestive tract, moving lemons into your stomach actually is beneficial because both your gallbladder and your liver sort of clean themselves out. They push, when they sense the lemon coming through, it alkalizes that tiny area in the duodenum, which is the beginning of the small intestine. It alkalizes it, and the liver and the gallbladder start pouring in trash to go out of the body. So it's sort of a double whammy. It changes the pH of the body, even though that it's an acidic food. It's sort of like carbonated beverages aren't particularly acidic like a lemon, but they are very acidic for the body. So the food, the quality of the food and acidity on the pH scale doesn't equal the effect on the body. And that's important to understand. And that's why the chart is important to refer to, because it's really not intuitive. You'd think a lemon, because it's acidic, would make you acidic. It's actually the reverse.
Another question related to lemons. Should you do cold or hot water with lemons in the morning, and 2 whole lemons every day?
Yeah, I would definitely work up to that. I wouldn't start with that. Make sure it agrees with your stomach and there's no pain. That's a back off and don't do if that happens. In terms of the hot and cold, but 2 lemons is the goal, in 2 cups of water. Okay. And everyone wakes up dehydrated. I don't care how great you are holding on to water. Dehydration is something I see in everyone, and you need to be hydrated to detox. You need to be able, the blood needs to flow, the urine needs to flow, the bowels need to have the fluid in them to flow. So getting up in the morning and having 2 cups of water is very beneficial. We know coffee is very dehydrating. So many people roll out of bed and have a cup of coffee. They're even more dehydrated than they were before the coffee. Hot or cold water really depends on the season. There's no reason, I definitely, when I do this in the winter, I warm the water. In the summer, I use room temperature. I don't feel there's benefit in extremes of either very hot or very cold water with the lemon.
Someone asked about modified citrus pectin.
Yeah, love modified. Yeah, I love Pectazole. It's expensive. I think that there are cheaper options. Although I don't have a single cancer recovering patient that's not on Pectazole. I'm a big believer in it, particularly the first year after chemo. It's really good for lead, although the studies that have been done on Pectazole and lead are financed in a large part by the company that made the original modified citrus pectin. But that being said, I have used it and I have seen blood work benefits from using it. So yes, I like it in powdered form, added to a smoothie, 100%.
And are bananas alkaline or acidic?
Bananas are alkaline. All fruits and vegetables, well, the banana itself may not be alkaline. I don't really know what the pH of the banana is. I think the pH, but what it does to the body is it alkalizes the body. Even though there's sugar in it, the effect of the quality of the sugar in a banana is nothing compared to processed sugar that you see on the far left of that chart. It's really interesting. You might want to try, if you're hungry, it's really interesting to me. And I saw this myself, and I've tried this with patients as well. I've talked to them about how they feel after eating fruit versus how they feel after eating something with processed sugar. And I also do experiments with blood glucose monitors as well to see what your blood looks like after a piece of fruit versus processed sugar. And I do find that the sugar in fruit is a gentler, kinder fruit. I had a very interesting patient experience. A patient came to me who was a fruitarian. It was a first for me. And I said, please let me run your blood work. I've never had a fruitarian before. I'm not sure whether I can support you, although we can chat about it, but I want to see what your sugar numbers are. She'd been on a fruit diet for 4 months, and her sugar numbers were some of the best I'd ever seen. And it really made me ponder whether maybe we have fruit wrong. maybe fruit is actually incredibly beneficial and good for our sugar regulating system. So
Interesting.
be continued.
Can these detox programs address candida?
It depends. I think that
Yeah.
they can certainly. So with candida, you need specific types of probiotics. You need to know the health of the gut. So you really need to look at occludin and zonulin along with candida. It's very complex. Yes, only because you're taking out a very inflammatory food group, or you're minimizing an inflammatory food group, and candida is very inflaming for the body. So yes, an anti-inflammatory diet that does include fruit can be beneficial for candida, but I wouldn't recommend it without a whole list of supplements to kill the candida. I wouldn't do it alone. It's complicated.
Mm-hmm. And did you suggest eating 2 whole lemons for breakfast?
Squeezed.
Squeezed.
No, not for breakfast. So this
throughout
is
the day.
No, roll out of bed and work up to this. So start with half a lemon and just squeeze the lemon in a cup of water or 2 cups of water to start. And that's, you roll out of bed and you have that. You drink the whole thing. And then you wait 30 minutes and then you have your breakfast, preferably not with a lot of fat. Just because it counteracts a little bit the positive benefit of the lemon. So I wouldn't have turkey sausage, for example. I would have something more fruity, less meaty for breakfast with that. But that, to clarify, that was what I was recommending.
And so then you would.
Lemon is always a hot question topic, Joan. You notice that?
Really? And so then you would work up to gradually.
Yes, very gradually. 2
and
whole lemons squeezed in 2 cups of water. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, look at, this is again 6 months.
Yeah.
Do half a lemon for a month, 2 whole lemon for a month, and if it bothers your stomach, back off, stop.
Yeah.
Not okay.
Another question: recommended alternatives to petrosol. If I'm guessing if petrosol is too expensive, is there something
you mean
else?
Pectosol?
Pectosol, excuse me.
Yeah. I really like the dulse flax combo. Dulse and flax, the combination of the 2 of them is incredibly binding of heavy metals.
Mhm.
I would probably, there's no tests have been done comparing the 2 to the Pectosol. But that would be a combination I would feel very comfortable with substituting. So let me talk about quantity of those. So for the flax, you really need a good 2 tablespoons of flax and a good tablespoon of dulse. My favorite dulse is by Maine Coast Seasonings, also on Amazon. I think the only way you can get it is in a set of 3. Actually, you can also buy dulse at health food stores and Whole Foods as well. And you want to make sure that it's from the Atlantic Ocean. I'm not completely convinced. I still think that the Atlantic Ocean is a better source for seaweed. I won't get into why. Anyway, the combination of those 2, so that would be a tablespoon of the dulse and 1 to 2 tablespoons of flax, preferably 2. And again, you would need to work up to that amount of flax, because to just go off and have 2 tablespoons of flax one day, you won't like me. By the end of the day, you'll be very gassy and a little bloated. Your body needs time to get used to that quantity of fiber. So the dulse, a tablespoon shouldn't be a problem. The flax, though, you need a slow, long runway.
Mm-hmm. Are there any modifications you would suggest for people with limited pancreatic function?
I would have to think about that. It really, so it depends on when I would need a clarification of limited pancreatic function. So if it's an insulin issue, or is it a hormone issue? Is it what is, I would need more specifics to answer that in terms of what that person is experiencing. So whoever asked that question could clarify what if you mean specifically a diabetic issue.
And Lee, do you want to unmute and continue, or just want to leave it there? Not diabetes related, but.
Yeah, I'm not, I'd have
Not
to,
enough.
I'd have to think about that. I'm happy to send you a response, but I really need to think about the specifics of the things I recommended that would be good for the pancreas. I have some thoughts, but I need to look it up and make sure that I'm right. So off the top of my head, I don't feel comfortable answering that one, but I will be.
Okay, well, I think that might be all our questions, and look at that, it's 2 o'clock.
Wow.
So,
we are a good team, Joan.
Well, Dr. McDonnell, thank you so much for your time and your expertise, and it's always such a pleasure to see you.
Thank you for everyone for showing up.
Yes, and thank you everyone for attending. As I said, I will get the recording loaded up to our YouTube channel. I'll send out an email with that link, information on our programs, and a lot of the resources that Dr. McDonnell shared today, the books and the recipe and some other resources. So thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Okay, thank you all.